So, Shane, thank you so much for joining me at infamoushorrors.com today. Um, Tell us how you got involved with Masquerade.
Yeah, so I wrote and directed this film. I wrote the script not thinking I would direct it, passed it off, optioned it to another horror director, and then I was going to go off and make another film called Salvage. Had a fairly big cast on that film. 2 weeks from shooting, a hurricane hit and shut us down. So I had the money for a film, and I had the crew, and then what could I fit in this slot, and then went back to the guy who owned the rights to this Masquerade script, and got it back from him, and went and made this film. And fortunately we were able to shoot just before COVID hit. And
Yeah, that's very fortunate.
yeah, very, very, I mean, it was just, we were in post, right at the time that things started closing down, so it was the editor and myself, and closed off. So it was you know perfect timing, so to speak, when it came to this film.
Right. And you got Bella Thorne to be the star of this film. And that had to be pretty exciting because the last feature I saw her in was with Mickey Rourke, and she did fantastic in that one. So, how was it like? And of course, Assassination Nation is probably her biggest mainstream film she's done.
Yeah.
So, how was it like having her on set on Masquerade? Because she just dominated the screen in this, I thought.
Yeah, she's amazing. When I wrote this script, it started with the ending. I knew what the ending was, and I kind of worked my way back. And I knew Olivia Lind, the young actress who played Casey in the film, was going to play the young girl. And so I wrote it for her, and also wrote it with Bella in mind, knowing that she and Bella had worked together on a film, Adam Sandler film. Forget the name of it, but they had worked together. So I always had those two in mind, and then sent Bella kind of an early draft of the script. And fortunately enough, that she loved it and wanted to do it. So I was able to kind of shape the character with her in mind, and using her notes, and we kind of built the script up from there. So I went in, very rare that my two leads were my first two options, and kind of went from there. And she's amazing, Bella. I mean, that she's a very, very intelligent female actress. I mean, she's yeah, I can't say enough great things about her.
Right. And let's talk about how you wrote Masquerade, because we saw a lot of films like this, like intimate thrillers and stuff, like wasn't huge set pieces. It was just like really intimate in the like mid 90s and early 2000s with stuff like Jade and Hostage with Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
So how did that factor in when you were writing Masquerade? Because obviously that can be a budget issue, or just you wanted to keep it rather small and intimate in the universe as well.
Yeah, no, great question. I wanted to always keep it small and intimate, and something that I pretty much knew I could sell. I mean, so to speak, because I did not plan on directing it initially. So passed it to my manager or my reps, and then they sold it kind of immediately, and knowing they would be easy for someone else. But so that was kind of always the thing. And then once I got it back, then I went through and said, look, for the first time in my life, I shot at my parents' house. The Masquerade ball in the beginning is at my parents' bourbon distillery.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so that
We
was
got to talk about that later.
yes, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I was able to take advantage of those things I had never done before. I kind of shot all over, and never called in that favor, so to speak. I don't think they'll let me shoot there again, but for this one, I wouldn't recommend anybody going and shooting at their family's house unless, especially a horror film.
Right, that's kind of like an awkward moment
Yeah,
to have there. Like, hey, we're going to be shooting this film, but okay, that it's a horror film, right?
exactly. And they haven't seen the film yet, so they haven't seen how much blood is in this film, and how much blood is in their foyer and things like that. So, that's going to be a talk after the screen to kind of explain that. but no, yeah, it was, the film, I always started with, I knew what the ending was. And I went to Steven Schneider, who did Insidious and Paranormal Activity, and he's got Old coming out. And just said, look, I've got this idea, and I know what the ending is. He's like, that's great. Now just just write the rest of it. So I just kind of went in, thinking small, just thinking like, what can we do in, a couple of locations to sell it, to make it easier on someone else. And then in the end, it ended up being, pretty easy on me. We did build the attic. We did had some bills, but I've done films. I did a film, Bloodworth. We were at 54 locations. My last film, Isolation, we were in like 3 countries. So
And that has to be daunting as well, dealing with that many locations.
exactly, and that's why to do it in conceivably 3 or 4 locations was, once you do that, you're like, wow, I don't ever want to go back
Right.
to bigger, crazy locations.
It's almost like a DIY project, only having it in 3 locations like that.
Exactly, and you're exactly right, and that's what made it. It was a lot of fun, and like I said, it's the first time I've ever gone. I've been in LA for 25 years, but I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. So to go back there for the first time ever and shoot something was really, really cool. And
Yeah. And speaking of smaller budgets, I've been like, when I talk to people, they often say smaller budgets help them out, especially being more creative. So, is that a process you like doing as well? Like, when the smaller budget comes, you feel more creative because you can maybe don't have the bigger studio looking down on you all the time, like while you're doing something, and then like you just feel more freedom whenever you're coming up with an idea for the movie.
yeah, great question. No, it absolutely is, and the fact that I wrote it as well, so it wasn't. I didn't have to go through a committee of different people and make these changes. I could really just jump in and go, okay, we have this set, we have this, going into the house, the attic, just different things, and wrote it around that. When I started writing it too, I started writing with my parents' house in mind, um, not thinking I would ever, because I didn't plan on directing it. And then when it came about, it was a hat in hand, like, please let me shoot here. So yeah, no, it definitely makes you make decisions that you know you might not at the time think, oh no, it has to be this way or that way. But no, it definitely helped in this situation. The Jack and Jill bathrooms, and just in this house, and the way the attic is set, and the distillery, and just, yeah, different things. You know, and writing it too. So no, this is the first film too that I haven't had to go back and do any additional shooting or reshoots or anything. We pretty much shot it in order, and didn't have to shoot a single thing, later. Thank goodness, because of COVID too, but also
Yeah.
that we were so well, having written it myself, I knew the film, and like I said, when I wrote it for my parents, what I could get to, it made it much easier once the time came.
Right. And that's another thing when it comes down to editing, it's almost like looking at uh like game footage from a game or something you're watching, right? So you're learning from what you did, or you're learning how sequences work together and how they don't fit together. So how was the editing process like Masquerade like? Because I imagine with the like distillery and all of that, it could be very glossy in some ways, but in some certainties, it's very much more intimate than other locations. So how was it editing Masquerade as well?
Yeah, no, that was a fun process, because I mean, the script didn't really change, but when you get into the edit, when you start moving pieces around, and we were cutting scenes in half that we thought would play longer. Just, the whole time I always wanted this from the point of view of Bella the intruder, and then kind of the victim, young heroine, and Casey and Olivia. So I always wanted to make sure that we're always going back and forth between the two of them. And like I said, we would trim, or split up scenes that would be
Right.
long. They were 5-minute scene, then they were 2.5, and we go to Bella, and we come back, and and just kind of jump around. And then, my another thing too is, you know, for something like this, you overlight it when you're shooting, and then to get in there and you're like, well, there's really no light source in an
Right.
attic, or there's one light source. So let's just keep it, let's bring it down, and make it feel as real as possible, as opposed to, why are those, the electricity's cut, but where's this light coming from? You know,
Right.
and you know, I guess we had a major full moon for the, it's one night, but like, you know, we wanted to do that, and that was part of the process as well, was to do
Right.
it. The composer, Ben Lovitz, who I'd worked with in the past, and he's kind of blown up and done huge things. I'm fortunate that I was able to get with him in the beginning, so we were working with his music throughout. And I think we go, I want to say at about the 15-minute mark, there's his score is underneath the entire rest of the film, and it's this subtle thing. And so Scott, the editor, and Ben, the composer, and I, laid it out of like, okay, this is how we're, this build up to kind of the chaotic moments at the very end.
Yeah. And how was the rest of the casting project process like? Because we've talked about Bella before, but how was getting the supporting characters around Bella like in this process?
Yeah, so Austin Nichols, coincidentally, he used to be my next door neighbor, like literal next door neighbor, in LA. So I didn't have him in mind per se, and then when he got mentioned, I was like, oh, of course. So Austin kind of came about, and think the world of Austin. He's a good friend, and he you know we just sold a script together that we co-wrote. I mean, we're doing other things together that kind of built off of Masquerade. Marcia, she came about through the casting process. I did a lot of I was already on sets, so I met with 20 or so actresses, either through Skype, or she was in London at the time, and she just kind of nailed it. But she's also just a fun, lively actress, and just a cool woman. I mean, a cool girl. And she's, she just really hit it on the head of just like, she's throwing this party, and she wants to, you know, she's just fun to have around as well. Skylar came about, Skylar Samuels. We had one actress fall out, kind of like right at the beginning of shooting schedule wise. Another film she was doing ran long, so I called up her agent, who's a friend, and said, look, this is what I'm looking for. And he's like, I love your script, here's the perfect girl. And she was. So she's fun girl, intense when she needs to be on film. And yeah, it was it was a fun shoot. I mean, like I said, I've done much bigger films, and bigger in scale, and like all over the different countries and whatnot. And this was just, nothing's ever easy, but this was definitely the easiest shoot, as far as dealing with actors and actresses and egos. And I this is the only film I can say I love all the actors.
Right.
And I've worked with other actors, and you could probably look and
It's not like the Tropic Thunder effect.
yes, 100% correct. Yeah, it's definitely not that. So I mean, you could go back and look at the actors in my films and go, oh, he's talking about that one. And I've been thrown to the fire for a few guys, females, males and females. And yeah, it's yeah, I'll leave it. Fired an Oscar winner in previous film. This was the first one that it was just all a pleasure, and can't speak highly enough. And they're all going and doing. Olivia's now doing the Chucky series, and Bella's doing a bunch. She's
See,
directing
she's
now.
on fire right now. She has like so many projects coming out every month, it seems like.
She does, and I was fortunate that her schedule worked out, because when she agreed, when we jumped in, I said, look, we're doing this, and I want you in. And she stepped up, and she killed it. She's awesome.
Yeah, and I think she's one of those people that is sort of controversial, but I think a lot of people should really give her the respect that she deserves because she can really kill it in a role like Masquerade or the
Yep.
movie she did with Mickey Rourke. I mean, she has range, and I think a lot of people are going to see that in the next upcoming years.
100% correct. Yeah, no, people don't realize how intelligent she is. She's very calculated in what she does, and she shocks people. But I started work with her from the very very beginning of the script, and we kind of laid it out, and she brought so much, and I knew immediately that she's just not trying to make herself and her character bigger and better, but she's also going, she was bringing up lines and things for Olivia's character and other actors and actresses that she's not even in scenes with, or those particular scenes. So yeah, I would love to work with her again, and I think sometime down the road we will. And she thinks as a director, and when she came about, she wants to direct, and she has directed some things, and she's going to continue to grow as an actress, and also as a director as well.
Well, Shane, thank you so much for joining me again today. It's been really fun talking to you and getting to know you, and congratulations on Masquerade.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I saw the Texans, so
Yeah.
I worked at ESPN for a long time, so I was a
Oh,
producer. So
oh,
I
that's cool.
covered the Texans games. I produced college football and the NFL, things like that.
Yeah,
So
see, I'm a Clemson fan. My dad graduated from Clemson in 1981 when they won the
oh
championship.
yes,
So
that
that's kind of been instilled in me ever since I was
yes.
born. So that's why I have the Houston thing on, because once upon a time they had the most Clemson players on a roster in the NFL.
Oh yeah, man. I hope Watson can get this whole mess figured out. But
Yeah.
I love Clemson, and I love what Dabo's doing there, and I'm so happy to hear that he's turned down a lot of money and a lot of big things, and he's stuck to his guns and stayed there, and they're exciting to watch. I mean, and I grew up playing basketball, so I grew up with Greg Bugner back in the day. So he was one of the great basketball players in the mid to late '90s there at Clemson. So yeah, I've always been a fan.
Yeah, you said you were from Louisville too. So
Sure.
I was at that Deshaun and Lamar Jackson game in
Oh,
2016.
nice. That was an exciting one. I mean, those two, and it's fun to see them in the NFL competing against each other. And yeah, going. My family has season tickets, so we to when we're in town, when it's either basketball or football, it's fun to have Clemson come in town. And now that I don't work at ESPN anymore, but I was there. I mean, I was there a couple because I covered the ACC. I was a
Right.
producer of the ACC football, so I was always at a game every week, and yeah, a lot of times it was at Clemson. So I've been to Death Valley many times.
Well, next time you're in Death Valley, we should definitely link up for sure.
Absolutely, I would love that. I would love that, and yeah, thank you so much for having me on
You
for
too,
doing that.
Shane. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, AJ. Bye.